guess Ron's downstairs waiting, so we'll start. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. This is a warrant review session for the two special town meetings, winter town meetings, to be held on February 23rd, Tuesday night, which is 2 weeks from yesterday. There is a winter, we're calling it the winter special town meeting, and I'm calling the second one winter special town meeting 2, but I believe online it's called midwinter, right?
Yes.
Midwinter.
Don't ask me why.
I think 1 and 2 makes more sense to me, but anyway. So I had a note on if you're interested in becoming a town meeting member. However, the time to get the ballots, to hand in your papers was yesterday. So, but if there's anybody who is interested in becoming a town meeting for the special, they're usually, the town clerk usually holds elections the night of the town meeting at 7 o'clock. And what you need to do is contact your precinct chair and then go from there. You can always contact me. I'm Terry Banerjee. I'm the town moderator, and well, thank you for coming. You can always contact me at townmoderator@gmail.com if you have questions. Let's see. I'd like to thank everybody who's here. We have a 6 article warrant, and one of the sponsors is not here because that article is going to be referred back. So I'm going to introduce Mary Ellen Kelly, who's our CFO, Bob Halpin, town manager, and Amanda Loomis, who is the planning board administrator. Okay. All the material is online. If you go to framingham.ma.gov and then click on the government, the word government all the way on the left, look for town meeting and go to the last line on the list after town meeting, you'll hit warrants. And if you click on that, you'll find all the warrants that go back to, I think, 2002 or something like that. But click on 2016. There's a folder for the annual. There's a folder for both of these warrants that we're working on right now. So the goal of tonight is to just go over the warrants, the warrant articles, just to apprise everybody about what's in them. This is not a debate. We're not going to debate the articles tonight, but this is to let everybody know what the articles are and what they're about. I will announce that Amanda will be holding an open house tomorrow in the Oblondy room from 5:30 to 7:30. And it's an opportunity for town meeting members and the public to come in and ask questions on the zoning articles that are in our special town meeting warrant 4, 5, and 6. So, I think did I miss anything? The election will be, for town meeting this year is going to be on March 29th. And the annual town meeting will start on April 26th, just so that you got that. And the calendar is also available online. Okay, so we'll start with the winter special town meeting number 1, which has 6 articles on it. And we'll start with Mary Ellen, who's going to talk about Article 1. Does everybody have a warrant book? If you don't have warrant books, they are online. We have a couple extra here for both warrant town meeting 1 and 2. Mary Ellen.
So Article 1 and 2 are both related to insurance, but Article 1 is basically appropriating insurance proceeds back into the source that we spent it from. In Massachusetts, municipalities don't have the ability to spend an insurance check if they get it, if it's over $25,000. So if you have damage to your house of $30,000, the roof is torn off and the damage to the garage, the insurance company pays you a check, you take your check, and you either spend it or you reimburse what you already spent, but you get to spend the check directly. Cities and towns don't have the ability to do that if it's over $20,000. State law says that if it's over $20,000, it goes into a holding account, and then town meeting appropriates it back into the budget to be spent. In this particular case, we had a lightning strike on the memorial building. It ruined several nodes up on the building, the Ethernet feed to our security system, and part of our security system, including the thing that controls the key cards and all the handicap paddles. So we had an application to our insurance company to repair all of that. They reviewed all of our expenditures and agreed that they would reimburse us for the cost of those repairs. Those repairs were $51,284. We applied to the Finance Committee for a distribution of the reserve fund in order to get all of this work done prior to the final adjudication of the insurance proceeds. And we knew we couldn't spend the insurance proceeds, but we had to secure the building. So we used the reserve fund funds granted by the Finance Committee, and so this is actually taking the check we received from Travelers, our insurance company, putting it back into the reserve fund. We've appropriated $51,284 to $51,284 will go back into the reserve fund. It's pretty simple. There is in the background material a short list of the types of things that got replaced, including cameras, port switches, and wireless nodes. Want to go to Article 2?
Thank you. Article 2 is appropriation of funds for repairs to the main library branch.
And again, we are prohibited from just spending the money up front. This is clearly going to be over $20,000. In fact, at this point, we don't have a final number on what the repairs are going to be. This was an extensive damage to the building, an accident during work that was being done by subcontractors and contractors. The insurance company has been overseeing this determination of cost process, so we have been working closely with the insurance company. OSHA actually came in and did an investigation. The state fire marshal came in and did an investigation. Our own fire investigators have been working on this project. The entire repair project and the submissions to the insurance company are being managed by Jim Paolini, who's the Director of Facilities Management. And frankly, if we didn't have him, we'd be lost. As you know, you probably have done with your own insurance carriers, if you have a big claim, you go back and forth and back and forth. You bring it to one adjuster, you bring it to another adjuster. Well, there have been lots of consultants and valuators and all sorts of different people coming in and studying all of the work that went on. So we have gotten power to the building to be able to provide heat so further damage doesn't happen to the building. We have done some repairs to the electricals at this point. We are continuing the work that we were doing on the ESCO project, so that includes some replacement of ceiling tiles that were not damaged. But there is still work that needs to be done to the electrical systems, to the mechanical systems, and there is soot all over the building. So, and it's electrical soot, so it needs to be cleaned by a specialty company. So all of that work is being done in phases, and we're mapping out phases of it, getting the phase approved by the insurance company, and then doing the work. We are paying up front, however, and they are reimbursing us. And so we only had so much money in the operating budgets of these two departments, facilities management and the library, in order to begin this work. And so we essentially borrowed money from payroll in the library budget, moved that down to a different budget line to be able to do the work. We asked for a reserve fund transfer from the Finance Committee. From the reserve fund, that was $227,000. That, of course, only leaves $120,000 in the reserve fund. We'll recede some of that. And so we'll also have to appropriate some funding up front to be able to do the work to complete the repairs to the library to be able to open. That's why there's no number here. We're also being very careful to not put a number to it necessarily because our concern is that if we define a number, the insurance company will say, okay, you define the number, that's going to be the claim. And so we have not defined a number in here. We've estimated a number. We hope it's that number, but we don't want to affirm that number because if it's $100,000 more than that number, $50,000 more than that number, we have concern that the insurance company will say, you said it was this number and that's all we're giving you. So there will be, we have $431,000 so far, probably more by the time we get to town meeting, that the insurance company has reimbursed us. We will appropriate that back to the library to put the money back in the salary account, and a portion of that back to the reserve fund. And then we will appropriate funds from free cash to allow us to finish the work of repairing the library. And again, it'll just be a pool of money. It won't be a determined amount. It'll be an estimate. We'll be very careful not to say this is the number when we make our presentation at town meeting. And then whatever reimbursements we get from the insurance company will then close out to free cash. It'll essentially backfill the hole that we took the free cash from to pay for the repairs. We anticipate, and we have been told by our insurance company, that they are going to cover everything. We just want to make sure that they do. So hence no firm, hard number in there.
Mr. Weaver?
I think Dick had his hand up first.
Do you want to take the mic, or
Okay.
just since, if you have a short enough question, we can repeat it, but.
Larry, can you make sure the microphone's on?
He just turned it
Oh,
on.
we did, okay, perfect.
Dick Weeder, town meeting member from Precinct 4. Ultimately, ESCO's insurance company ought to be on the hook for this, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, it's the subcontractor.
Well, whoever, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there are like four.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what happens here is our insurance company is kind of taking the lead in negotiating the ultimate settlement between about four different insurance companies.
And they'll get their money back and they won't hold it against us.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was that your question?
Did you have a question, Mr. Warshaw?
Just how do you get this through town meeting without a number?
No, we will have numbers at town meeting.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we'll have
Be an amended motion.
a dollar appropriation back to the library from the insurance proceeds, which may be more than $431,000. We'll put the remainder, so $340,000 will go to the library. The remainder of that will go back to the reserve fund, and then we will appropriate funds to facilities management to conduct the rest of the repairs, which will get reimbursed by the insurance company. But there will be a number. We're just going to be careful not to say this is the cost, this is the final cost of the repair.
So if you don't get enough, you'll have to come back.
Yeah. At the annual.
Okay, Article 3 was the acquisition of a parcel located at 85 Bethany Road, and that article is going to be referred back to the sponsor with the concurrence of the sponsor. I don't know if you want to address that, Bob. I know that there are ongoing negotiations going on, and there will be some school information coming back probably to the annual about whether we getting a school, having a
So
school.
let me give you kind of a high-level history of this, because I think it's revealing. It is going to be returned to sponsor, because when the town conducted its appraisal, we were much, much farther apart in terms of the appraised value for this property. But Article 3 was sponsored by the school committee, with some encouragement from the town manager in particular, because of the significant benefits that a school south of Route 135 would mean for the Framingham public school system. This is where the district is experiencing its great enrollment growth, and currently we service that population by having very, very expensive bus routes that transport them largely to the north side of town, to schools that are far removed from where these children are living. We'll leave it to the school department to kind of get into the detail of what those benefits are, but over the course of a year and a half, 2 years, it became pretty apparent to just about everyone that there was significant operational and financial benefits to the school system by having another school on the south side of Framingham, and specifically south of Route 135. In 2014, the Division of Community and Economic Development did a survey of about 10 possible locations south of Route 135, and really, the Bethany Hills site, which is 85 Bethany Road, was really the only site that was large enough to meet state standards and therefore be eligible for reimbursement, and the others were quickly eliminated for a variety of reasons. So this is a anywhere between 16 and 32 acre site, depending on how much appetite the town had for a school site and/or additional recreation facilities to go with it. It's part of a much larger 60 or 65 acre site that's owned by the Congregation of the Sisters of St. Joseph's, a Catholic order of nuns that still maintains a presence largely on the south end of the property. And as chance would have it, they put 32 acres of this property on the market in the fall of 2014. Given the significance of this to the school department, the superintendent and I reached out, engaged in a discussion with the sisters and their broker, and they were kind enough to basically take this off the market for the larger part of a year while the school department and municipal departments looked at where it would fit into the school department's plans. This fall, they basically said it was really time for the town to make a decision. We conferred with the selectmen and others and decided that it was worth calling a special town meeting in February of 2016 and launched an appraisal. We've determined that the two views of the appraised value of this are really far, far apart, and the biggest disagreement being the value of an existing convent building, which is right where the school would most ideally be situated. So it has little value to us and would likely be demolished, but which the broker feels is of great value to the sisters. So by mutual agreement, we've taken this article off. We've reopened negotiations, and we'll see where that takes us. I'm not particularly optimistic about town meeting, but in May. But we are meeting and continuing the dialogue. I think the Sisters of St. Joseph's would very much like to see this passed on to the town. I think they have some financial needs they're trying to satisfy as well. It's our hope that we'll make some progress on this. But the school department does have a pretty compelling argument for the growth in school population on the south side and what a walkable school in the middle of about 650 children who live within walking distance of this particular location would mean to their overall busing program and school program and cost within the school district. But we'll leave that to them.
Okay, thanks. I have some questions.
Yeah.
I just want to mention that Dr. Scott was planning to come. He was on the list of people, but because this was referred back, both he and the chair of the school committee didn't need to be here.
Would we have access to those other?
Well,
Please use the mic.
Sorry. Kathy McCarthy, Precinct 10. Would we have access to the other sites that were even considered? And if, in fact, the property that Perini had just sold to Framingham State, if that was included? No.
No.
And how, it also, I'll just finish my spur. How does this relate to the fact of the Fuller Middle School and all that coming to play in time?
good question.
Yeah.
So let me say, first of all, the Perini building was not, the Perini site at Mount Wheaton Franklin was not included because really the school department's parameters were, if it's south of Route 135, it's where they had, well, you'll have to take that up with them. But the sites that we were asked to evaluate were south of Route 135, and yeah, we'd be happy to share that.
And just one other follow-up, was because when we talk about a walkable area for kids, we notice they're purposely choosing across town. So I don't think we can assume that they would be walking, because it's not necessarily beneficial for people that in my neighborhood to walk to Brophy, which would have been their home school. They go elsewhere. So I think the school choice in busing has to be taken into consideration, hopefully in the future when you do that.
And again, those are all questions for the school department and their policies. But could I just speak to the Mass School Building Authority?
Sure,
So to the point,
only because we
About
have
where-
a short program tonight.
where this fits into the bigger picture, there needs to be a school. We were just successfully invited by the Massachusetts School Building Authority into what's known as the Massachusetts School Construction Grant Reimbursement Program. We will be required, in order to pursue that, to evaluate a whole variety of options for a new school. We've had a lot of discussion about the Fuller site. It's options that are related to that, and that this would be one of those options that would be evaluated for potential submission to the Mass School Building Authority. So it would be one of several options. The school department thinks it's a very, very strong option, but would have to be submitted to the Mass School Building Authority as the preferred option for a new school within Framingham.
Fuller or the new.
The new location, but it would be compared to Fuller and any other option. I believe that we're up to about 10 options that
Yeah, there are 10.
explore the feasibility of.
Okay, thank you. So the next three articles are our zoning articles, and Amanda Loomis is going to take over and address those. The first one is Article 4, which is to amend the zoning bylaw related to the modification of an approved permit and plan.
So this is just pretty much a housekeeping item that we had brought up during the Central Business District. At that time, there was a request to insert no material corrections, additions, substitutions, alterations, or any changes substantially made to any approved plan. So basically, if the Planning Board or the Zoning Board of Appeals had approved a plan and they also went for a modification to the opposite board, it would just require the applicant to come back in front of the Special Permit Granting Authority or the Site Plan Review Authority to modify those plans. So it was just making sure that all plans were reviewed and either approved for the modification or denied or modified by the respective board. So that's all it was at the time. When we were putting it into the Central Business District, we couldn't put it in the location where we wanted to because it would have been expansion of scope. We had town council weigh in on that as well. So that's why we put it at the end of the Central Business District with the intention of putting it into site plan review in the special permit at the next available town meeting. And the standing committee was the one that had requested at the next available town meeting. So this is the next available town meeting. So here we are with this article. So it is not like a housekeeping item. It's part of the recodification process, but at the time we couldn't put it where we needed to. So it's just taking it from the Central Business District and putting it into site plan review and special permit.
Okay, we're going to have to add a word to the motion and attach so the background information gets in here. So
Okay.
I'll just mention that to you. I'm going to also take a minute, Amanda, to wish you happy birthday. Amanda gave up her birthday night, and I just wanted to acknowledge it and thank you for doing that. It was very, very nice of you to sacrifice. Article 5 is to amend the Framingham zoning bylaw related to the establishment of a corporate mixed-use bylaw.
Yeah. So the corporate mixed-use bylaw, as we know, has gone through many editions since about a year ago when we started developing this. As we know, we're in the recodification process, which we developed a work plan back in 2014, which laid out short-term, medium-term, and long-term items. As part of that, we actually had the rezoning of the 990 Corporate Center, because that was called out in the master plan that was updated in 2014. So I can just kind of, I guess I should have handed out this earlier, but I did have a PowerPoint presentation prepared, so there is some right there. But the overview of the location that we're talking about is really the 990 area and the area in between the technology park and 990. So that would be on the first page, slide 2. Where we are really getting the foundation for this in the recodification work plan was from the master land use plan, which we took the time to update in 2014. That was a long time coming. It was 20 years since the previous one, which was adopted in 1988. So when we revised it, we wanted to make sure that the town was being protected but progressive in terms of requiring energy efficiency, pedestrian-friendly, bicycle amenities, et cetera. And so in section 5.1.2.3, target areas or corridors identified for rezoning. And number 4 of that list was the 990 Corporate Center and the Technology Park. Back in 1994, the Technology Park was rezoned to what it exists as today. But 990 at that time and the area in between 990 was not rezoned. Going back through the history, in 1998, there was a small section within Exit 12 that was rezoned from R1 to R4, single-family residential. There was also another piece in that same area in 1998 that went from manufacturing to R4 zoning. Then in 2000, there was another piece that I'm trying to track down the attachment, but that would rezone to light manufacturing. So those are really the only zoning that occurred outside of the technology park within this area that I can see since 1998, but we will continue to research this as well. But really what the master plan really calls out for is review the density of the existing land uses while considering mixed-use options for a live, work, play environment. Create a work plan with the businesses, corporations, large parcel owners to develop technology park master plan, streetscape improvement plan, and update the technology park zoning district. In the corporate mixed-use bylaw, you will see that there is a requirement for a master plan. So that means that we are requiring that the landowners within the CMU, one, which is the headquarters of Staples, National Development, and several other parcels within that area to develop a master plan with the town as well. What that allows us to do is actually be proactive rather than reactive, because they have to develop this master plan, submit it to the town for review. It goes through the technical review, and it also has to seek approval by the planning board for any creation, modification, or amendment to this plan. Therefore, if we were short on infrastructure, the applicant would have to show how they were going to mitigate that, in addition to impacts on school, impacts on the bicycle, pedestrian, open space, et cetera. Slide 4 on page 2 that you've received is just an overview of the companies that we do have in this area. We have FedEx, Genzyme, a Ball Fitness, we have CA, we have a Sheraton Hotel, we have a Marriott Residence, we have Staples, we have National Development, and we have Bose. So we have a lot of investment in this area. We also have over 13.2% of the town's commercial and industrial tax levy comes from this area. So it's a matter of making sure that they are able to grow in place and retain them for the future rather than losing them to surrounding communities. Slide 6 on page 3, development of the CMU districts. We wanted to promote a mixture of land uses, enhance economic vitality and density, create employment opportunities, develop a master plan community rather than a parcel by parcel, pedestrian and bicycle environment rather than auto-dependent. We know there is a traffic problem up in the Exit 12 area, but what we're trying to do is allow you to park your car and then move throughout the campus, whether it be the CMU1, the CMU2, or the technology park, without actually having to move your car. A lot of people use different devices to track the number of steps they do a day. So if we can create a pedestrian, environmental friendly environment, we actually enhance that. We also want to make sure that we have a lot of trails that connect in this area, that those trails are accessible to the town and continue to be used by the town. Again, we want to be proactive rather than reactive. We don't want to get caught on our heels. That's why we're requiring this master plan by the developers of the 990 area, because they know best of what they need, but they also should be talking. So if they're going to put something in, they should be talking amongst themselves. They should also be talking with the town to ensure that we have enough infrastructure or capability to provide that. If we can't, again, they need to provide it. And then we actually included several uses within this. So the purpose and intent, it's just to have a pretty much commercial, office, retail, educational, residential, and community space in a master plan community, both in the 990 Corporate Center area and the area between 990 and the Technology Park. Currently, mixed use, which is residential on any floor above the first floor, is allowed within the the area along Route 9 in the business zone. So that's everything south of Route 9 to the 990 Corporate Center. So what we're allowing is just to make sure that we see reinvestment in these properties. The intent is to rezone the existing light manufacturing, general manufacturing business zones in accordance with the master land use plan and best practices. When we were developing the CMU, we are constantly looking at case studies of what has occurred in different communities, but we're also looking at studies that have been done on Framingham. The ULI did a study on 990 and the technology park. Also, MAPC did a study on the walkability that was focused more on the technology park, but it should have really been expanded to the 990 area because it is an area that should be able to walk between the two. On slide 8, on page 4, it's the master, the zoning map. So what we are proposing, because we did have a meeting back in July of where residents came and voiced their opinions, and we did include the interchange at that time, but they had stressed that they didn't want that interchange included in this area. So therefore, at this time, we've actually pulled it out. So you'll see the blue area, which includes 15 Pleasant Street connector to the north, which is zoned Technology Park. But the reason why we're pulling it into the CMU is because you actually have to go down Route 9 into Southborough and back into the Technology Park to get there. So it's kind of not a cohesive. So what we're trying to do is make it much more walker-friendly. You can actually just walk over the bridge and you're in 990. The red area that's outlined in red is the area between Technology Park and 990. That is the CMU 2. So that's a different kind of environment. That's why we called out a CMU 1 and a CMU 2. The CMU 2 should be a transition zone between 990 and the Technology Park, but actually pull them together to, if you think about it, you should be able to work on both sides and then be able to go to a restaurant or do other amenities that you would do on a daily basis. Slide 9 is new proposed dimensional regulations. As you can see, we've gone through the various zoning dimensional table, which is in section 4E of the Framingham zoning bylaw. We looked at the existing light manufacturing, existing business, and then we also looked at the technology park and compared it to the CMU 1 and the CMU 2, and that's how we were able to develop the numbers that we came up with. This does have an 8-floor maximum. Each floor is 15 feet, so therefore 8 times 15 is what you would be able to get in terms of a building height. You would have rooftop equipment, which is a maximum of 20 feet high above the last floor. And then we're going with maximum lot coverage rather than FAR because in order to ensure the development meets what the town is looking for and what the developer can actually achieve, because when you have an FAR, you sometimes can't do both the height and the lot coverage, so we're making sure that it's consistent with best practices, and that's what a lot of experts that we've talked to have been going with, and they're getting away from the FAR.
Does everybody know what FAR is?
Floor area ratio, sorry. It's the amount of area that you can cover on a building lot. So if you have a lot that's 1 acre, an FAR of 1 means that you can cover the whole 1 acre, but if you wanted to go in FAR of 2, you can start stacking on top, and you can only cover 50%. We can provide diagrams of that. It's much easier when you see it in a picture. So what we're really trying to do, again, is allow for better and more productive land uses, maintain the campus environment of 990 Corporate Center, and redevelop Route 9 and allow for reinvestment in that area. So again, the goals are just to incorporate landscaping, streetscape, open space, trails, and pathways designed at large-scale projects so you can actually focus on that pedestrian environment so you're not feeling overwhelmed. Incorporate bicycle and pedestrian features, create the master development plan, and allow for economic growth and retention of existing companies while attracting new companies into the CMU. So that is the CMU in a nutshell.
You could go that's Article
Yep.
6 as well. When I looked at the warrant, originally I had a fit because I didn't see Article 6. It's at the end. It's after the background material.
Yes, and to follow up on that, so
And
the
it's-
warrant was printed prior to the planning board reviewing this most recent edition. So there was a letter that was provided and the background information that was advertised. So yesterday, since I apologize, we had a snow day on Monday, so we sent everything out yesterday. So every town meeting member should have the revised zoning language, the map, And then also the table of uses, we also included the flyer again, because those were sent out to all the town meeting members and all the landowners within 300 feet of the proposed CMU 1 and the CMU 2. So we were just trying to get the information out. Also, the website has been updated regularly, and then tomorrow you'll see, if you aren't able to make it to the open house tomorrow night, all the materials that will be provided here for review will be loaded onto the website under a little section that says open house materials. And then if you have any questions, definitely email us or call us, because we can get those answers. We're going to have some staff here tomorrow night to answer those questions, but if the staff isn't available for those specific questions, then we're going to be recording those, taking them to the staff members that would have the expertise in that, and then getting that information out on the website. So we're just going to try to get as much information out and get the answers to the questions, answers to the questions, I apologize, as best as possible. Also, the master plan calls out to talk with Southborough. We have been talking with Southborough. We had a meeting with Mr. Purple, who is their town manager, and their planner, who has recently left their position. So we're waiting kind of to move forward until they get someone in place, and so we can get them running. We don't want to hit them first day on the job. So.
Ms. Butler?
Deborah Butler, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 7. I attended the Real Property Committee meeting a couple weeks ago. There, Staples was talking about pursuing a special permit to build apartments on CMU 1, but I see only reference to non-residents in your dimensional regulations. So if they do proceed with a regulation, they're going to have, with apartments, they're going to have to get a special permit, correct?
So any apartments or housing, because zoning can't differentiate between for sale and for rent. So it would be any principal use or mixed use. So residential, under the table of uses, would require a special permit from the planning board. A mixed use project, which would be, it could be all commercial and office, but if it does have a commercial component and then a residential, then again, that would be a special permit from the planning board.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
While Kathy's making her way, I also want to thank Ron Rigo and Anthony, who are taping the show, and it will be broadcast, and I will be getting that information out, hopefully on my Facebook and Twitter, which I don't use as often as I should. Ms. McCarthy.
Yes, I do want to thank Amanda for all her hard work in all these articles that come forward, and really the planning board as well for their work on this. Being precinct 10, and this area used to be precinct 10, it used to be precinct 10, now it's somewhat precinct 7 and 11, but we have history with the neighborhoods there. And please, those of you who are town meeting members and at home, realize that when this was rezoned to light manufacturing and whatever, it was because of the wishes of certain corporate entities. And in Planning and Zoning Standing Committee and whatever, we hear it's another wish. And that's why it's being pushed forward. I don't think it's ready for prime time. I'm not alone in this aspect. And although certain corporations have been working with the town, they haven't necessarily worked with those of us who represent those areas. And a note about the residents meeting and how they didn't really want it included in the mixed use there because they didn't realize that that was going to stay as manufacturing. And they're very concerned that they had to go and get lawsuits, get money, fight this years ago. And I don't see them protected in that area, even though they're taken out of it. But I don't think they have a really good idea of what is going on and what's the possibilities there. But also, we hear a lot about a campus and whatever, and it isn't really, it's a work campus, but for people to live up there, it was mentioned about like Southie and that, you live and you work in the same area. For young professionals to be up there, it's not the highlighted place that the young professionals that I know would want to live, kind of cut off by everything. And we talk about pedestrians, but the traffic and the pedestrian safety in this area is horrendous, all the way up
I
to
think-
Route 9 Temple.
I
So
think this
thank
is
you
what's gonna
for
be-
this, and there'll be more discussion, but again, we shouldn't necessarily always change the rules because a company wants to do something else. And in fact, we heard about them not filling they have leases that have left, but that's because they didn't want to negotiate the higher price. So we have to keep everything in mind, and it should be good for all of Framingham. And some parts of Framingham complain about the traffic, and they have no idea what we all deal with. So thank you very much, and we'll hear more. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a motion to refer this back until a future town meeting. Thank you.
Mr. Marchand?
Yes, Madam Moderator. Ray Marchand. I'm Chair of Precinct 14, as well as a member of the Standing Committee on Planning and Zoning. And I really hate to put Amanda on the spot, especially on her birthday. I apologize for this. And I'm not going to argue the merit. She understands where I come from on this issue. But how solid is this plan now in light of tomorrow evening's meeting and further citizen input and planning board action? Are we solid on this, or may there be other changes prior to the actual town meeting?
Yep, definitely. So the way we've been actually writing zoning, as Standing Committee knows, is we've been drafting it based on best practices, research that we've conducted, review of master plan, and et cetera. But I have to say that over the course of several of the bylaws that we've written, the public comment has only strengthened the documents, such as the open space cluster, the transfer development rights, et cetera. So we actually welcome all this comment, and that's why we continuously try to get as much input as possible. So for me to say that it is a done deal, no, because tomorrow we may actually get very good comments like we've already received. That's why we've developed it even further from the January Standing Committee on Planning and Zoning to pretty much this past Standing Committee on Planning and Zoning meeting in February. So yeah, we are going to continue to make it better, but there does come a point when we're just rearranging words to move them around. But yeah, after tomorrow, we'll have some more information and we'll take that under consideration. There has been questions about making a master plan requirement for the CMU too, which makes sense as well. So we're investigating that in addition to, since we have a density cap on the proposed residential in the CMU 1, we're going to be looking at that in the CMU 2. So for me to say that this is it's not done until everyone is agreed upon that it's the best, and also we have numbers coming in from DPW, and I'm also going to provide the traffic numbers to the Standing Committee for next week's meeting, so yeah, I can't say no.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yep.
But happy birthday.
Thanks.
Thank you. So now we'll close Special Town Meeting 1. And the way this is going to work at town meeting, because both meetings have been called for 7:30, we will open the warrant for the Special Town Meeting 1 that we just went over. Then we will adjourn that, table that one, and then we will take up Special Town Meeting 2, which is what we're going to talk about now. Special Town Meeting 2 is comprised of 2 citizen petition articles. The articles have been proposed by a citizen who has garnered enough signatures to get them onto town meeting. And we'll just go over those now. Article 1, and I'm just going to make a brief comment that these are personnel functions, and both of these articles will be considered as resolutions. They're non-binding because town meeting doesn't really have the authority to make these decisions. But Article 1 is an act to eliminate the Cory checks for veterans who apply for benefits, and it's to take the Cory off the form that people have to fill out so that there can be no Cory check. Do you want to just explain what it is, Ms. Butler?
Deborah Butler, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 7, and I am the sponsor of both of these articles. The article seeks to amend an acknowledgement form that is commonly given to veterans and strike 2 words from it, veterans' benefits. Therefore, they will not be asked to provide information, so a query check can be run on them if they're just seeking benefits.
Okay, thank you. Article 2 is, let me see if I can find it. Article 2 is a move to take a no confidence vote regarding the town's Director of Veteran Services and Benefits. It names the person in there. I would like to say that Ms. Butler and I have communicated, the motion will not have the name of the person in there, and I will be limiting discussion, will not be able to mention anybody's name, because we have rules of civility that I plan to keep going in town meeting and enforce. So, do you want to tell us what this is about?
Sure. Deborah Butler, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 7. This article of a no confidence vote will, as you have said, be a resolution. The discussion I envision will be driven by the veterans who have filed complaints, and I will really take a back seat on what they have to share. And we're simply asking town meeting to vote up or down whether they believe that there is an issue here. And that's about the extent of this particular article, as controversial as it is.
Thank you. All right, I don't see any questions. So that will conclude our program tonight. I want to thank, as I said, Ron Rigo and Anthony, my guests who have come, Mary Ellen, Bob Halpin, and Amanda, and all of you who have joined us to hear this, and the audience at home. I also need to thank Buildings, Ashley and Sandy and Mr. Jim Palaney for setting up the room and helping me out with that. This is a cooperative effort. Thank you very much. Thank you. And we'll see you, well, hopefully Amanda will see some people tomorrow, and we will see you at 7:30, well, hopefully before that, on February 23rd for the Special Town Meeting 1 and 2.